Joe Biden has now officially not resigned, but withdrawn from the 2024 election, if you can believe it. He was a great president, in my opinion. I think he stood a pretty good chance of beating Trump. I will support the Democratic nominee, no matter who it is. So, I didn't care that much. They killed him. It's over. Can't believe they would do this to him. All the Democrats. And AOC was right. AOC was right. Or no, I think he has endorsed Kamala, but he withdrew. He was for labor. Well, I'm more moderate than you, so I like Biden over most other people. Oh, it's over. My fellow Democrats, I've decided not to accept the nomination. Focus on all my energies and my duties as president for the remainder of my term. My first decision as the party nominee in 2020 was to pick up Kamala Harris as my vice president, and it's been the best decision I've made. Today, I want to offer my full support and endorsement for Kamala to be the nominee this year. Democrats, it's time to come together and beat Trump. Let's do this. My fellow Americans, over the past 3.5 years, we've made great progress as a nation. Today, America is the strongest economy in the world. We've made historic investments in rebuilding our nation, in lowering prescription drug costs for seniors, and in expanding affordable healthcare to a number of Americans. Who should be the nominee? Probably Kamala. Probably. We provided critically needed care to 1 million veterans exposed to toxic substances, and passed the first gun safety law in 30 years, appointed the first African American woman to the Supreme Court, and passed the most significant climate legislation in the history of the world. America has never been better positioned to lead than we are today. I know none of this could have been done without you, the American people. Together, we overcame a once-in-a-century pandemic and the worst economic crisis since the Great Depression. We protected and preserved our democracy, and we revitalized and strengthened our alliances around the world. It's crazy because the Biden administration said it was getting back on the campaign trail next week, and they said this yesterday. A bunch of liars. Well, it's just good messaging. So, like, up until the very last moment, say your candidate is or sorry, not like it's just like a good strategy. It's like what literally every politician would have done. You like try to save face until the very last moment. You never want to be like signaling. They're like, oh, maybe he will. Maybe that's a possibility because it just makes you look bad. Like you never do that. That's what every single politician would have done. It's not like Biden is unique there. Yeah. Been the greatest honor of my life to serve you as your president. And while it has been my intention to seek re-election, I believe it is the best interest of my party and the country to stand down and focus solely on fulfilling my duties as president for the remainder of my term. I will speak to the nation later this week in more detail about my decision. For now, let me express my deepest gratitude to all those who have worked so hard to see me re-elected. I want to thank Vice President Kamala Harris for being an extraordinary partner in all his work. And let me express my heartfelt appreciation to the American people for the faith and trust you have placed in me. I believe today what I always have, that there is nothing Americans can't do. And when we do it together, sorry, we just have to remember that we are the United States of America. It's so Jover. It's so Jover. How Democrats would pick a new candidate if Biden drops out, step by step. If President Biden decides to end his campaign for re-election, as dozens of members of his party have demanded, there are two paths for replacing him as the top of the Democratic ticket. One is a virtual vote that would lock in the new nominee in early August, and the other is an open convention, a scenario the party hasn't experienced since 1968. A convention is open when no candidate arrives with a clear majority of delegates, so the event turns into a mini primary in which contenders scramble to persuade delegates to vote for them. The potential for chaos is high, and the time is short. Some states have August deadlines to get on the ballot for the general election, and early voting begins in some places in September. So party leaders probably would try to settle the nomination before the Democratic National Convention begins August 19th. Here's how the process could play out. They're going to make the nominee Democratic Party return to its roots. Well, what's up, People's Party? Biden sucks so bad he had to endorse some dumb chick. True. I don't know. Like, literally everything I've said it before. Literally everything I've seen at Kamala is just funny. Also, I think Biden was great. Okay. Tired of pretending like it wasn't. Tired of pretending like it wasn't. And now, guess what? I can't make the positive case for him anymore. There is no positive case. Okay. So there's no, because whoever they choose, like, we've never seen them be president before. So there is no positive case to be made. You know, I would have loved for debates with people to be about the positive case for Biden, but now I don't get to do that anymore. Instead, it's all going to be about the negative case for Trump. Everything is just going to be the negative case for Trump. Everything's going to be false electors, false electors, false electors. January 6th, false electors. Yeah, Iran nuclear deal. False electors. What else? I don't. Oh, tax cuts, deficit spending, tax cuts. Yeah. I'm convinced Biden is secretly a con. A con for who? Of what? Okay, here's how the process could play out. Biden decides to drop out of the race. His delegates are free to vote for whoever they like. Biden endorses Vice President Harris, which he did. He has already. Con like cum. Biden doesn't endorse anyone, so this doesn't matter. They both go to the same place anyway. Okay. Or possibly with someone else. Biden's delegates aren't obligated to support the person he endorses, but they may be inclined to do as he wishes, particularly if he chooses the vice president. For say unity, party leaders will try to convince delegates to I don't know how to pronounce this. Coalesce around one candidate. An early vote. The party is planning a pre-convention virtual vote to officially nominate Biden. It could be delayed or canceled. So if there is a vote, there's either a majority or no majority. I think it's relatively likely that they'll just do the vote and they'll get a majority for Kamala. But either way, either if they don't vote or there's no majority, decision will be made at the convention. Who will pick up the nominee? A few thousand delegates representing voters officially choose the party's nominee, whether a convention is open or not. Typically, they do choose the winner of the primaries. That's what they're sent to do. So it may feel as the voters choose directly. But if Biden, the primary winner, leaves the race, all his delegates would be free agents and would choose a candidate on their own without voter input. There are two types of Democratic delegates. Pledge delegates commit to supporting the candidate voters choose, although a good conscience clause in the party's rules gives them a bit of wiggle room. The party allocates pledge delegates to each state or territory, and state party officials divvy them out to candidates. Jurisdictions have different criteria. Nancy is racist and doesn't want to see a black queen succeed. True. Kamala was straight up be hurt the party in her jeopardy. I don't blame her. We put the party. Party allocates pledge delegates to each state or territory. State party officials divvy out to candidates. Jurisdictions have different criteria, but in general, almost any registered voter deemed to be loyal to the party and the candidate can be pledged delegate. Poll workers, local elected officials, fundraisers, even candidates' kids. Automatic delegates, often called superdelegates, are the party's highest profile leaders. They have the role because of the offices they hold or held, and the group includes former presidents and vice presidents, Democratic governors, members of Congress, and party officials. They are not pledged to any candidate or allowed to vote on the first ballot. Allowed to vote on the first ballot at the convention. Jesus. So we'll see an open convention. Maybe if the party goes ahead with the long-planned virtual vote, it could officially lock in a nominee before the convention starts on August 19th, and the contest would be over. Biden would have taken some cues from his son and smoked some crack. Maybe he would have been more alert in the debate. True, he should have, unironically. The virtual vote is not a typical part of the process. It was largely set up to confirm Biden as the nominee before Ohio's ballot deadline, which falls before the Democratic convention this year. Ohio legislators resolved the problem, but Democrats plan to go through with early vote anyway to avoid any legal challenges that would try to keep Biden off Ohio's ballot. However, it would allow very little time for the party to coalesce around a new nominee. Even if the virtual vote is canceled, the party could generally agree on a candidate before the convention. In that case, the convention might technically be considered open, but the proceeding could be as drama-free as usual. Democratic leaders would be motivated to settle this question quickly, so a new nominee can begin a campaign as soon as possible, said Amy K. Dancy, the executive director of the Stein Institute of Policy and Politics at American University, and a former CEO of the Democratic National Committee. Quote, "You're endorsing a Republican convention where it's very clear who their nominees are, whose names will appear on the ballot," Daisy said. They now have this moment in the time of like 31 days before the Democratic convention where they'll have to put nominees in place and they're all campaigning. Biden can try to tip the scales towards unity by making his nearly 3,900 delegates to back his preferred candidate. They wouldn't have to comply, but they were chosen for loyalty to him and maybe inclined to do what he asked. But if there's no consensus before the delegates arrive in Chicago, the Democrats would have their first open and contested convention since 1968. That one, also in Chicago, went so catastrophically awry that the party overhauled the way it chooses candidates. This was the Vietnam War shit, right? Yeah, with Nixon in Vietnam. Yeah. What was the guy's name? The 13 Keys to the White House guy? What's he saying right now? What would an open convention look like? At the convention, if no nominee has been chosen, candidates officially enter the race. Signatures of at least 300 delegates are required for a candidate to appear on the ballot. They may gather signatures before, during the convention. First ballot, pledge delegates vote. There's a majority. The nominee is chosen. Okay, second ballot, superdelegates are allowed to vote along with the pledge delegates. The majority subsequent ballots. Voting continues until the candidates secure a majority. Just to get their name on a roll call vote, each candidate would need the signatures of at least 300 delegates, and no more than 50 can come from any one state. We would probably know who the early contenders are, Dacey said, citing the short window of time available to drum up wide support. If I'm somebody who wants to get my name in a contested convention, the minute I have those 300 names, I'm going to say it, she said. Behind the scenes, maneuvering and deal-making would rev up to warp speed as state party bosses try to corral their delegates into a voting bloc. How can Kamala be president if she was born in India? True. Once everyone is in Chicago, candidates and the surrogates probably would blanket not just the convention floor, but also hotels, bars, and other associates. Other assorted hidey holes looking for delegates to it. That the Kamala one aged well. Soda. Things have gone off the rails in past open conventions when candidates had clawed for every vote. In the political oral history of the 1976 Republican Open Convention, attendee Tom, I don't know how to pronounce that, bro, Korologos, former associate ambassador to Belgium, recalled a Gerald Ford delegate falling and badly injuring her leg. He said that rather than rushing her to the hospital, other delegates splintered her leg with convention programs to keep her within voting distance because they feared her replacement would cast a ballot for Ronald Reagan. Ford won the nomination but lost the battle to the presidency. Yeah. Soon enough, first roll call vote would occur. What's up, Grumple? If a candidate were to get a majority of delegates' votes on the first ballot, then a person who would become the nominee, and that person would become the nominee, and everyone could finally relax a little. But if no one gets a majority, second vote would take place. At that point, the convention would be considered a term coined in long-ago conventions when a party brokers through all their deal-making, arm-twisting might into finagling votes. There hasn't been one of those since 1952. The toned-down 2024 version of that scenario would be that starting with the second ballot, the superdelegates enter the voting pool. Voting will continue round after round until a candidate gets the votes of a majority of all delegates and would be named a party's nominee. Well, it probably would make good television. Party division playing out on a convention floor is hardly the ideal scenario. In 1924, the Democrats needed 103 rounds of voting to finally settle on a compromise candidate, John Davis, after the 2 highest vote getters withdrew. It didn't work out well. Incumbent President Calvin Coolidge beat Davis in a landslide. Dude, you know, the issue is if Kamala is the nominee, which is, I mean, looking likely. Twitter Space is neat, but like it only exists as basically dialog box in your Twitter. You can't open a new tab. Yeah, I don't like this. Sucks. Okay. Also, why the audio quality of them is like dog shit. Like, like if you watch like when Destiny was doing that Twitter Space against all the conservative people, like if you listen to the Twitter Space from other people, Destiny sounds like shit. And if you watch the stream, Destiny sounds fine, but every other person sounds like absolute shit. It's like the audio bitrate is like miserably low. Like. It sounds like everyone's on their fucking phone. We get a coconut army overlay. I need to make one of those. Also, I guess I should Ballotpedia. Kamala Harris. Guess we should start taking notes on Kamala Harris, okay? Because apparently can't use the name of Biden shit anymore. All this, it's all gone. It's all worthless. There's actually like not that many notes here, but at least I won't have to worry about the Hunter Biden shit as much.